Okay, here we are. We're finally live. I'm going to try to look at you guys up here in the webcam and not the picture down here. About 30 seconds ago, I hit a button that said I'm done with my setup page, and it took me back to my YouTube channel page, and I didn't know how to get back because I'd never been in that situation. Been reading the comments ever since you guys started doing the comments. I've been I'm caught up, but there's so many. It's hard to. I've been making notes. Let me know if there's anything wrong with the audio or the picture or anything like that, and we'll roll with it. If I got to restart things, I'll restart things. First of all, somebody mentioned Charmin toilet paper because my last name's Whipple. Brooke and I actually looked at a piece of property on Charmin Court, which is on Haystack Mountain, north of Fairbanks. Of course, we didn't buy it because obviously. Somebody asked if I'd ever been to Yakutat. Never been to Yakutat. The guy from Arizona said, I'm getting old. Man, I feel you, brother. Next summer will be my 30th class reunion. So, right? Canada was checking in. Somebody from Canada said hi. Love Canada. Canada is absolutely one of my favorite places in the world. So I want to show you guys my new hat. This is Toad River, BC. You know, I'm not thrilled with your government up there, but I don't really care for the one we got down here at the moment. And the Toad River gas station was out of gas when Brooke and I were there last, so that kind of sucked. Long story around that. So you guys just make sure you let me know if there's anything wrong. We'll just keep rolling, and hopefully we won't have any glitches. Oh my goodness, the chat's going too fast. I can't read nothing. Hi, everybody. But please, if you're on here, you don't have to say hi. I appreciate it. I love that. But you don't have to do that because if somebody's got a question, I'm never going to see it. The chat's just cruising along. So what I've been doing today is going through the process of setting up this live stream setup with I got a $50 microphone. It's a Samson Q2U, in case you wonder. And I have a webcam, a Logitech webcam. Hopefully I'll get a better picture than the computer screen, and hopefully I'll get a better sound than the computer camera. And I was actually talking to Brooke on the phone just a little while ago because she's in Colorado at the moment. And she says, I have a webcam. It's in like the drawer where we keep all the recording junk. So I actually dug this thing out and plugged it in. It just worked perfect. I didn't have to figure it out or anything. So actually right now it doesn't really look like it's working. It looks like my computer camera's working. Well, if I tried to fix it, I don't know if it would. I'm going to try it. Give me a sec. No, I better not mess with it. Is the microphone coming through good? Okay, good. We're all good. Some folks were thinking that Brooke was going to be on tonight, but she's not. She's in Colorado. She's out at a convention that she went to. And I think she's going to be back Thursday. So if you see her in the chat, she's not going to pop in here. So what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about this channel, where we're at right now, where we might go in the future. And this is part of it. I've never done any live streaming before, kind of always wondered about it. Wondered if it was something I wanted to do. Wondered if it was something that was too much of a pain in the neck to do. Because there is a little bit of tech to it. And when I'm involved, I'm just making it harder all the time. I keep trying to use different cameras for a webcam and none of them work. And I keep trying different microphones and having mixed results. So I don't know. I'm not sure about live streaming, but for right now, we're going to give it a shot tonight. I'm going to give you guys a rundown. What I'd really like is I'd like to be in a situation where I had a little bit more to say with you guys back and forth. Because the truth of the matter is let me take that one step back. One question I get asked all the time is why are you and Brooke always in different places? Well, the truth is, we both are YouTubers. We don't have a channel that's like Brooke and Dave does whatever. So we're always working on separate projects. We're in different areas. We're always doing different things. And honestly, YouTube is like one of the greatest work by yourself jobs because it's better to be by yourself when you're setting up shots, when you're changing camera angles. You know, like my brother-in-law Scott, and he's always telling me like to come up and help me work on the cabin. I'm like, well, when I go to the UP and work on the cabin, I'm filming, and when I'm filming, it's stupid slow. You can't get anything done because if you're getting stuff done, you're not filming. So a lot of times I'm moving the camera 1,000 times. 9 to 5 to life. I see you guys, man. It's good to see you. Chad up there, Chad, Naomi, and the girls up there in the Upper Peninsula in a non-disclosed location. Who else is down here tonight? Black Spruce. I know that guy. Hey, Ryan. My brother Ryan, Black Spruce. If you're not subbed to his channel, go sub. Ryan is kind of like Ryan and I do kind of the same video content. We do a lot of projects with 1,000 shots, and so his stuff. When I watch his stuff, it's exactly what I would how I'd film something. Ryan and I have been we've been brothers since he was born, and even though I'm 5.5 years older than he is. Who else is here tonight? Good grief, I cannot read this chat. So, okay. The future of this channel. What is the future of the Bushradical channel? Well, to be honest, I get a lot of people that contact me, and they always say the same thing. They say, I know how busy you are. Well, that's nonsense because I'm not busy at all. I try to be as not busy as anybody can possibly be. But when I'm working, when I'm filming, a lot of times I wait until there's a project that is really interesting to me, that I know that is interesting to a lot of other people. Because if it's interesting to me, but nobody else wants to see it, I don't shoot it. If it's interesting to me, and you know, there's other videos out there in YouTube where the same idea or something like it has been popular, then I know I wouldn't be wasting my time filming it. So generally, I spend most of my time trying to find ideas that fit what I want to do and what people would actually watch. So I'm really not that busy. So when people get a hold of me and they say, you know, I know how busy you are. Well, I'm really not. And I'm trying not to be. But what I am is I'm kind of overextended. I have a lot of projects that are halfway finished, 3/4 of the way finished, not even close to being finished. And that's probably where the channel is going to be in the next year or so. And I probably said that about this channel last year. Like this year was the year I was going to catch up on all my projects, but you never do, right? You dive into something else and then you just add another project that's halfway done, and pretty soon you've got 1,000 half-done projects. So in the next, I don't know, before the snow falls anyway, I have my cabin in the Upper Peninsula that has a porch on it, covered porch, because there's 2 of them. I want to put a set of bunks in that as opposed to just 2 cots on the floor. I'm going to probably water seal it. I don't know what I'm going to do for stain on that property. There's a couple great big cedar trees, and I'm talking 4 foot across, just monsters that have blown down over the years. And they're probably 150 years old. So I was thinking about doing that cabin in cedar shake shingles or sawn cedar shingles. But that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of attention on just doing the siding. I may or may not go that route. Eventually, I'll side that cabin. I'd like to build a couple log bunks in it so I can get past the just having 2 cots on the floor. So that's something that's in the pipe. As soon as it cools off, I'll be up in the UP. The leaves will be falling. Hope to do some fishing up there and get to work on that cabin. Also, the red cabin, the cabin that's got the tree that grows through the porch. That's the guest cabin up there. When I get that done, you know, if friends or family are up, you know, there'll be another cabin. It's 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile away from the first one. But it'll be another cabin that somebody can stay at. And that's probably about as far as I'm going to get this fall. I'd like to get both of those cabins dialed in a bit more. Probably not totally wrapped up. I'll probably do a compilation video on the abandoned cabin. You know, that abandoned cabin that we have, that it's going to need I told somebody else just a little while ago, it's going to need kind of a surgical renovation, because you could spend more money on the place than it's worth the way it's built. But it's pretty solid. It's got pretty good bones. The house itself needs to be leveled. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Have you ever met Sean James of My Self-Reliance? No, I never have. Of course, he's another channel out there that likes to build cabins and sit in the woods. Everybody knows who he is. But no, I don't know anything about him. Our friends Jim and Ted Baird from season 4 of Alone, they've hung out with Sean James. And I guess Sean James is actually, he's like a hardcore duck hunter. He was, Jim and Ted were hanging out with him for a day. And he got him up at like 3:45 in the morning to go duck hunting. He was all about it. But I don't know anything about him. I've never met the guy. I don't know anything about Sean James. You know, somebody had mentioned a while back in the comments, I saw it a long time ago, something about don't flake out like Wrangler Star. I don't know Wrangler Star. I've never met Wrangler Star. I sent him an email once because he titled a video exactly the same as one of mine. It was simple cabin anybody can build and afford. So I took a screenshot of his thumbnail and I emailed it to him and I said, dude, did you rip off my title? And he said, no, I didn't know about it. But, you know, that video had done really well on this channel. I don't know that guy. I don't know anybody that does know Wrangler Star. But I will say this. I got a friend in New York. His name is Jim. He runs the Tradesman's channel. We chat on the phone quite a bit. And Jim does a lot of timber framing. And I guess years ago, Wrangler Star must have been watching Jim's timber framing videos, because Jim fell down, had a beam sweep him off the second floor of his barn he was building. And he fell like 14 feet, shattered his leg. And Wrangler Star sent him $1,000, which, you know, that's not nothing. And I don't know that those guys ever talked or met or anything, but that is a story. So, I mean, somebody mentioned something about flaking out. I don't know what Wrangler Star's doing right now. And I don't know him or know anybody in our YouTube circle of friends that knows the guy. But I do know that he sent Jim some money when Jim broke his leg. So just take that for what it's worth. Whatever he's doing now, he's probably all right. You ever thought of doing Jake and Nicole style thumbnails? Come on, Chad. Seriously, brother? Nobody wants to see me naked, that's for sure. Comments are starting to slow down. People must be either getting bored or they're realizing that this is just a ramble fest and they don't have to keep up so much in the comments. Okay, so I said hi to the guy in Canada. Also, there was somebody from Maui that had chimed in that said, you know, they're viewing from Maui. Man, I'm sorry for what you guys are going through. It sounds like just a hellhole out there, and it sounds like a bunch of problems getting things going back in a positive direction. So, Maui, if you're still watching, all of us are thinking about you guys. I don't know what's really going on out there, but I know it was pretty rough. Who else is down here today? Man, it's for a guy who doesn't read fast. This is not my game, really. A lot of people have asked about Mick, our son, Mick. Mick is 18 years old, and it's not Nick, and it's not Mike. It's Mick, and Mick is living in Alaska. As soon as he was 18 years old, he turned 18 in March, and he got out of school in like the end of May, and we all went up to Alaska, and we all drove up together, and he's up there right now building a cabin, of course, and he's about to have a gigantic dose of reality because it could be winter there today. It probably snowed. It's probably snowed already because in interior Alaska, the end of September, it was like 85 degrees here in Michigan today. And the 3rd of October in Alaska, there's probably an 80% chance you have snow on the ground in interior Alaska. So Mick is figuring out firewood. He's figuring out all the places in the cabin he's built where the cold air is coming in. But you know what? It's a better education to do something like that with your hands and figure it out and learn by trial and error than it is to read about it in a book for 1,000 years. Speaking of books, if you guys want to buy the best book, the best Alaskan book that's ever been written, get on eBay and buy yourself a copy of Shadows on the Koyukuk by Sidney Huntington. Best Alaska book that's ever been written. A guy just died a few years ago. He's about 100 years old. And he grew up, he's half native. His mom was native, his dad was white. And he grew up like right at the very tail end of, the old folks he knew when he was a kid actually lived off land. Were actually subsistence natives before they started doing a lot of trading and stuff. And it's just one of the best books ever. And it is a blood and guts book. But in a small way, our son Mickey right now is he's figuring out, Alaska winter on his own. And he was born there. Both of our kids were born in Fairbanks. And we lived in Delta Junction for 6 years. So Mick is in Delta. He's around his friend group, a lot of people that he was in school with, I don't know, before we moved back down to Michigan. So good luck, Mick. I keep calling you and you keep not answering the phone. So I'll keep bugging you. I know you're super, super busy and you're probably in panic mode. But that's what October in Alaska is all about. Panic. Wow, it's hard to read this. I know you guys, I know everybody's enjoying the chat, but if you have a question, I'll try to catch it as it flies by. All right, couple other things. Let's dive into what tonight is all about. So we touched on the future of this channel, where the channel's going in the future. Well, where's the channel been in the past? I started this channel right after Brooke and I got out of Alone Season 4, which was in the very beginning of 2017. I started this channel. And like everybody else on the whole platform of YouTube, I had no idea what I was doing. So I would do like reviews of gear that I had, or I did stupid stuff. Like one day I had to change the belt on my wheel horse tractor. So I'm like, well, I'll film that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your wheel horse tractor. There's like 1,000 wheel horse junkies that were like, this is the best video I've ever seen. This is exactly what I needed. But I really didn't know what I was doing. As you keep getting better and keep, being a student of YouTube and try to figure out, what do I love to do that other people will actually like to watch? And let's just focus on that. The better my videos did over the years and the better they've got. And it kind of got to a point where I figured out like the best way to make a good YouTube video is generally the hardest way, which means thousands and thousands and thousands of shots and change the angle every 2 seconds. And some videos I took a month to shoot, or some videos have taken 40 days to shoot. And then it's 5 days to chop all that footage down to where it's watchable. So that's why, in case you guys have been wondering, that's why I make one video a month, if you're lucky. There was one year I made like 11 videos. And I was a pretty good year. I think all those videos did fairly well. But for the folks out there that are wondering, why don't I post more? It's because I've kind of boxed myself into this corner where I do a lot of work and then I just crush the video hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times and edit out all the ums and ahs and just get it down to where it's edited enough that if I edited it any farther, it would start to feel jerky. And then I do a voiceover over top of it and just talk about what's going on. And if anybody out there is a YouTube nerd and kind of wants to delve into YouTube and, you know, kind of likes the voiceover method of doing YouTube, I do my whole edit first. Everything's completely edited. And then I just turn on the mic and I just talk to you guys about what's going on. So, because that's what everybody wants. They just want to hear, you know, they want to hear a natural conversation. And it's the only way that makes sense to do it. Because otherwise, if you like write out a script, it just sounds stupid. So if you're wanting to get into YouTube, do all your editing first, then your voiceover afterwards. But that Jason High says sawmill video. Jason, I actually have a sawmill. I bought a Wood-Mizer LX25 a year and a half ago. I haven't done a cotton picking thing with it because I've just been busy with other stuff. It's under a tarp in the tall grass in my yard. Please, nobody steal it. But yeah, Jason, that video, I plan on getting that mill put together. I bought a rusty old camper trailer for it, and I'm going to put that mill on that camper trailer. So me and my brother Ryan and our brother-in-law Scott, we can all share this mill. And I've got some logs to saw up at that abandoned cabin property. Mm-hmm. So live streaming is one of the things I'm thinking about doing in the future because it's quick, it's interactive. You guys can ask me something or say something, and I can say something back to you. And I don't have to put 40 hours in or 40 days, right? I don't have to put 40 days into filming a video, which is, I can't even fathom it, really. I mean, the last video I shot, that chainsaw video, if you guys haven't watched it yet, you should watch it twice because I was I was pretty happy with it. I think it turned out pretty good, but it took me like 3 weeks to shoot and edit that thing. Because honestly, you know, when you're talking about chainsaws, as soon as you say anything about chainsaws, somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to tell you, you're doing it wrong. This is stupid. What are you doing? You're unsafe. So I spent a lot of that video's time just thinking, okay, I need to cover everything or I'm just going to get grilled. And then somebody out there, just like the guy at the bar who always says, play some Skinner to the band. There's going to be somebody out there that says, you need to watch Buck and Billy Ray, who I have. He seems like a really nice guy. I've watched a couple of his videos and I don't even know if I've seen him run a saw. He was chopping a tree down, but seems like a really nice guy. Freebird. Thank you, Keith. Freebird, Newman's Own. Yeah. There's actually a really good Leonard Skinner documentary on Netflix if you guys want to see a good Skinner. There's still the Creedence Clearwater Revival documentary too, which is even better. Jack Green says, hi, Dave. Hi, Jack. Wow, it's hard to read this. More cheap wheels. Somebody said more cheap wheels. It's just going by. John Fram. My other YouTube channel is called Cheap Wheels. If you haven't seen it, if you're not a car person, you're not missing it. Here's a problem with cheap wheels. I have it'd be about a year ago, I bought the most expensive car I've ever bought in my entire life. If anybody can guess what it is, put it in the comments. I'll let this ride for just a second. Most expensive car ever. Most expensive vehicle I have ever paid money for in my entire life. Newman's Own says cheap motorcycles. Yeah, I'm all about that, brother. Never mind. The comments are just absolutely flying by. No, I bought a $3,800 Pontiac Vibe because my old Ford Escort, I park it in the driveway and I'd put a chunk of firewood behind the wheel so it wouldn't go anywhere because it's a manual, right? So you just leave it neutral and let it warm up in the morning. Brooke was out of town, so I moved the car over to her spot, which is closer to the house. And I had a block of firewood underneath the tire, but that spot over there is just a little bit steeper. and it was outside running in neutral and warming up, and it decided to roll down and hit the barn and just smash the back end up. So I banged the back end out as best I could, and I said, okay, that's it. It's like we'd had that car for 12 years. I mean, I think I put the kids on the school bus to kindergarten with that car. I bought a Pontiac Vibe. It's $3,800, most I've ever spent on a car, and it's pretty much been totally trouble free. And any little thing that has went wrong with it, I don't think I could put it on that Cheap Wheels channel. So the Cheap Wheels channel, it was really easy to film content for that channel when I was wrenching on vehicles all the time. Like my black F-250 that you've seen in some of my videos. Man, I've changed every part on that stupid truck because I got it for nothing, man. I paid like $350 for it. And I went through everything on that truck. And it's still just a beater of an old truck, but it runs perfect. There's nothing to do. And the old blue truck, I did a video on this channel, on the Bushradical channel, about buying a used truck. I got to looking around that truck after I bought it, and there's a little spot of the frame that's out. So, you start dealing with holes in the frame. How much time do I want to put in that thing? Should I just resell it? So Cheap Wheels has kind of been on the back burner. Oh, another story about Cheap Wheels. I've got this Hawk 250. It's a RPS Hawk. It's one of them Chinese 250 motorcycles. I bought the thing as soon as the kids were almost out of school. I got back into riding motorcycle again. So I bought a $1,500 Chinese dirt bike because a buddy of mine talked me into it. We each got one. And the thing's been perfect. It's cheap, but man, it runs great. Starts easy. No problems with it. But I was out shooting a video for that motorcycle probably a month ago. And I was shooting this sequence about how good the front brakes work. I was on this Sandy 2-track. So I set the camera up about this far off the ground so I can get like the bike going through, and then I'm going to lock the brakes up, stop the bike. So I rode the bike through the shot, locked the front brakes up, which thought I locked them both up, but the front tire washed out and the bike tipped over. And my right foot just got smashed between the bike and the ground. Sorry. And I bent my big toe back on my right foot, and I thought for sure I broke my foot. So I hobbled around for like a week. Anyway, long story short, that was the last video I was shooting for the Cheap Wheels channel, and it's mostly done. I have a bit of editing to do on it, but the Cheap Wheels channel, that's where we're at with the Cheap Wheels channel. And this is where we're at with live streaming. My first live stream, I think everything's going fine. The tech seems to be working. But other than live streaming, I've thought about, I want to get your guys' take on this. And I don't know how to ask people to comment slowly, but I've thought about diving into podcasting too, because I like to chat, if you haven't figured that out. But I don't chat on my videos because it's all about the work. It's about shooting thousands of angles, and then when I edit it up, I do the voiceover. So I don't turn to the camera and talk to the camera in my videos, because every time I do that, I get to the editing process and I look at it and it's like, well, I wish this guy would shut up. So I just get rid of that stuff, and then I condense the video, make it more watchable, and then I do the voiceover. So I've considered getting into podcasting a bit because I think it would be easy, provided I could find a good enough topic to keep going with. Okay, I've seen this comment like 50 times now with the flags. Somebody asked what kind of gear I'm using and what kind of software I have. Everything that's ever been on this channel is edited on iMovie, which is like Fisher Price editing software. And almost everything on this channel has been shot with a Canon HF-G20 camcorder, which it's 12 years old now, probably. I think it was a discontinued model when I got it. I've used a couple other cameras. I have a GoPro, and I've got a Sony CX250, which is like a You can buy them on eBay for $60. But if you are getting into YouTube, if that is your question, the guy with the flags, stay away from Final Cut Pro, stay away from Adobe Premiere Pro. People make movies on that stuff. For shooting YouTube, man, you want the simplest, easiest to use software you can possibly get. So as far as a podcast, what do you guys think? And I'm just going to try to read here. Liberty Off-Road Premiere Pro is such a PITA. Yeah, word up, brother. Windows Movie Maker. I've heard of that, but I don't know anything about Windows. We're kind of a Mac family here. Okay. One of the other things, one in chat for podcast, right on. One of the other things I've been thinking about, and it's kind of along the same lines, because, you know, I don't do this. I don't do this talking head stuff. When I make a video, like I mentioned earlier, I want to make sure it's a video people actually want to watch. And then I pour a ton of time into it, and I have a giant edit, and I have thousands of shots, and then I just wing a voiceover. And that's if you want to know how I make videos, that's exactly how I make videos. Thousands of shots, crush the edit down, wing the voiceover. So I don't do this. I don't talk. I never get to scratch that itch. You know, I never get to talk much, because I don't think it's very watchable. So podcast has been on my mind. And the other thing is, I've been thinking about doing a YouTube channel that would be a kind of a how-to channel. And I could batch shoot that. I could shoot 5 or 6 videos, and they would be super quick to shoot. But I know there's other folks out there who have contacted me over the years who would like to get involved in doing YouTube. And there's so much confusing information out there regarding starting a channel and how to film and editing software. There's so many Gen Z kids out there that were like, they were running iPhones in their crib, and they can do these animations and these crazy edits and just all kinds of stuff. And old folks like probably you guys and probably myself all lumped in there. Those channels don't make a ton of sense, because there's, you know, if you're 18 years old and you've been running a computer since you were born, all this stuff is second nature. But to old folks, you know, people who were born in the 70s, it takes a bit of time to figure out the tech. It doesn't exactly come across super easy. So I think there's a spot on YouTube for a blue collar YouTube how-to channel, where people who are mechanics and people who are cement finishers can kind of get some insight into what it's like to work on YouTube, how to shoot video, how to edit video, what kind of gear to buy. And because, you know, if I made it on this channel, there's 1,000 people out there. There's 1 million people out there who would probably do a better job and have more interesting content. Because honestly, I was a high school dropout, and I went to alternative ed for 1.5 years, and then I went back to high school for my senior year. I graduated with my class. I graduated at the bottom of my class, and then I poured concrete for 20 years. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. But you know, you can't do it the way you want to do it if you're just going to make crappy videos. I think everybody needs a little bit of guidance. And Brooke and I have always had each other to bounce ideas back and forth. And we're both students of what works. We watch a lot of videos about, you know, how to basically get out of your own way and dial your content in so it's not long-winded and boring and stupid. But I think there's 1 million people out there that want to get involved in YouTube and would rather shoot videos and share the things they love than roof houses or drive semis or whatever. Please do not do a live feed. I think that's what this is, man. I'd like to make crappy videos. Everybody can make good videos. You just kind of got to be brutal with editing. So those are three things. Maybe more live streaming, maybe a podcast, and maybe a YouTube channel that's a how-to about the gear, about the editing, about the video work to get older folks who are blue collar up and running on YouTube. So maybe you can make that life change. Because honestly, YouTube is by far the best job I've ever had. I've done better on YouTube. I've had a better time. I've got to do things I wanted to do that I never had the time or money for, and I've just filmed them and made money, which gave me more time. It's a wonderful thing to be involved in. And it seems like it has a high bar to entry, but it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. If you watch a lot of the how-to and tutorials, you see young people with flashy are interesting and useful, and then rinse and repeat and always get better. So that's kind of been on my mind. I think I could ramble on about how to make YouTube videos forever. And that's kind of how this whole YouTube thing works. The cabin building and traveling to Alaska. And, that's been my life. So when I started doing YouTube, that's what I did. I'm like, well, what about my life is interesting enough that I actually know something about that somebody would actually want to watch. And the building videos have done really well. So that's kind of been where I've taken something from my life that is, you could get paid $25 an hour to swing a hammer, or you could shoot a video and show people how to build a little cabin, and it pays indefinitely. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? But a blue-collar how-to YouTube channel has been on my mind. Podcasting has been on my mind. But I don't really know much about the space. If we've ever talked at any point, I just have talk and text on my phone. I don't have any internet on my phone. I have my wife's hand-me-down phone that I may set up with internet, but I don't have any on the phone I've had forever. So kind of backwards in the Stone Age, technologically speaking. I miss cheap wheels. I appreciate that. The channel was really good to do, and I had a lot of fun with it. I'm still going to put out cheap wheel stuff, but I've been driving a car that doesn't break down for a while. Somebody from the east coast of Canada. How you guys doing? Build a concrete home. In Fairbanks, Alaska, that's where I did the most of my concrete work. And I got a group up there. People I've known for 20 years. Jay Heath and Joseph Heath, Dave and Davey Still, Bob Bostic, Johnny Johnson. I've been pouring concrete with those guys for 25 years. So when we're up there in the summertime, I still pour some concrete, but I don't get too involved with it because I just don't want to do it anymore. But I love those guys. They're a good group of guys. We've all been, in the trenches doing cement since the late 90s. So, but no, I'm not going to build a concrete house. Build a stone house. No, I'm not going to do that either. Sponsorships. MG says sponsorships. Well, if you guys have watched this channel, you're probably aware that I don't have anything on here for paid content. I don't do any sponsorships whatsoever. I had the Anchor power station company offered me a pile of money like a year ago to do a product endorsement on Anchor power stations. And they wanted to kind of pitch their newest power station. And I didn't really like it. I mean, it worked great, but it had two handles. So it wasn't like a top handle that you can, you had to carry it around like a cooler. I said, man, I just don't want to do this one. Send me a different one. Because I was going to do that review. I use Anchor products. I like them. We used Anchor battery banks on a loan. It's a good company. They got good products. But I was going to do that as actually a paid content video. but they just kind of flaked out on their end. But no, I try to keep this channel completely free of sponsorships because it just makes you feel slimy. Even though I love Anchor products, I love the power station I have. We have 2 of them now. I love both of them. They're really good. They work good. Just makes you feel slimy trying to pitch something you wouldn't buy to somebody else. And it's not that I wouldn't buy the product. It's I wouldn't buy the product at the price. They're more expensive than they should be. It's thinking flies in here, man. It's like 85 degrees outside. Timber frame cabins. I got a friend that does timber frame. He's got 600 videos and he's got 37,000 subs. So I don't think there's enough interest in timber framing. And it's a lot of work. Do a KLR video. I already did, man. My motorcycle trip in Alaska is a KLR video. A friend of mine, Matt Stilson, him and I just did a KLR motorcycle trip to Lake Superior a few weeks back. Invent something and sponsor it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Do you believe the brand of tool is important? Alex from the UK. Yes and no. Some off-brand stuff is fantastic, and some of it, you shouldn't cut corners. Cement tools are a good example, although nobody cares. Marshalltown tools they're all top quality, and there is some smaller brands that are kind of crap. And I've got a Marshalltown trowel that I've had for 30 years, and I've wore it down from being this wide to being about that wide, and it still works perfect. It's wore out, but affiliate links of products you love in Amazon store. Yeah. When I started doing YouTube 7 years ago, I actually did open a product affiliate marketing thing with Amazon. And what I found out really quick is everything I use is old and used. So I didn't have any products to link. I linked like a couple knives I reviewed. Then I'm like, screw this. I'm just wasting my time because I have old trucks. I have old camping gear. I have old motorcycles. I have old chainsaws. I didn't have anything new to link to an affiliate program. I didn't use anything like that. Sponsor Black Spruce handmade knives. Yeah, Ryan makes really good knives. What is your favorite hobby? I play guitar and I ride motorcycles, and I like to build stuff. I like it less than I used to. There's one thing I do want to bring up too. All the music that is on the Bushradical channel, all of it is me just playing guitar. And what I'll do, in case you guys are wondering, I'll play a progression, a couple different chords until I find something I like, and then I'll try to play it for 3 minutes straight without screwing it up. And then I'll open up another track in GarageBand, which is like Fisher Price recording software. And then I'll play a few licks over top of it, a little bit of lead, and then that's the song. And I save those songs to my computer based on what they feel like. So I'll have like A minor, busy, or like E flat, like moody or something like that. And when I find a spot in a video that the music seems like it fits, I'll just load that in. I will probably at some point put my music out on a video just with a blank screen so everybody can have it if they want. Because I've had a lot of people ask about it, about putting out an album of music. And what's your favorite guitar? So I'll probably put my music out for free at some point. What's your favorite guitar? Oh man, I like Telecasters and Les Paul Juniors. Acoustic guitars, I've got too many. Man, it's going too fast. Gold play button. Okay, hold on just a second. I'll be right back. Yeah. So this is my gold play button. It came in the mail 5 days ago when Brooke and I were up in the UP fishing. And this is for you guys because, I just make videos, but if nobody wants to watch them, who cares, right? But because of the subscribers, because of the watch time, I actually have a gold play button now, which is pretty cool. So thank you for mentioning that. I kind of forgot to show you guys that. Do you listen to rock, country, disco? Yep, all of them. I like all that stuff. Celebrate with cake. Well, I'm actually trying to lose some weight. I'm like 246 at the moment. I'm 6'2", so that helps, but I'm still 246. Mick almost has his silver play button. Yes, he does. Carhartt or Dickies? Neither one of them. Carhartt doesn't make pants that fit me. They always feel like they're just gonna, like when you're working in them, like they wear you out. What we got going on here? What about Nick's boots? Well, I'm wearing a pair right now. I did a deal with Nick's. I guess that's kind of like a promotion, but it was the deal I did with Nick's was I told him, hey, I'll shoot a video about your boots. I'll give them an honest review. They suck. I'll say they suck. In exchange for sending me a pair, and I liked them so much I bought another pair. And the thing is, they fit my feet correctly because my feet are like super straight. I got a really big toe, so like I can't wear Red Wings. I wear Red Wings and I'm crippled. What motorcycle? Thank you, sir, Joseph. I'm so glad you asked. When the kids got to the point where they were about out of school, I decided I could ride motorcycle again. I wasn't running the risk of, orphaning the children. I have a Harley Sportster 1200. I ride a lot. I try to ride every night. And I've got a KLR. The truth is I have two Sportsters and I have two KLRs. And then I've got that Chinese motorcycle. So I guess I kind of went off the deep end when I got back into bikes. So I have one KLR in Alaska, one down here, and then the Harleys are here. I've never had a Harley before, but dude, they're so cheap right now. Like there's Harley, people buy Harley Davidsons, and you see Sportsters all the time that have 5,000 miles and they're 20 years old, and you pick them up for $2,500. That's a cheap motor. That's a cool cheap motorcycle. Glock or Sig? That's a good question. I actually bought a Rock Island beaver-tailed 1911 and 9mm a while ago. It's actually really lovely because I can shoot with it. I love my Sportster 1200. Me too. I use Marshalltown tools, and they're awesome. That's all I saw. It went by so fast. Yeah, Marshalltown tools they're the best in the cement industry. But again, nobody cares. That's why I've never done a video on pouring concrete. Nobody cares, man. Who wants to watch a video on pouring concrete? I actually know more about pouring concrete than I know about any other thing under the sun. But I don't do any of that on video because who wants to watch that? It's like, paint drying is just a little bit worse than watching concrete dry. Nails or screws. Oh, brother. I actually, to answer the guitar question again, I have a 1950 Gibson J45 that I got just destroyed. It's been in the shop for 2 years. I called the guy today and kind of gave him like, hey, I'm going to pick this thing up, make sure it's done. So that's a cool guitar. I've got a few old tube amps too for any of you guys that are antique audio fans out there. Safety glasses, or just wear your glasses? I just wear my glasses. My favorite motorcycle channel is Fort 9. Ryan Kluftinger. The guy does the best work in that space, and he's always doing he does sponsorships from an eye company called Flying Eyes. They do like prescription safety glasses. So if you ride and you want to wear like something that'll stop a rock, there's a brand called Flying Eyes. No affiliate. How about concrete live stream? Wow, man, that's like the worst thing I can think of. Favorite prog band? I don't know, man. I don't know if I have a favorite prog band. Sit Next to Me by Foster the People is an alt song I love. I like a lot of alt rock. I like a lot of old rock. I listen to NPR when jazz is on, but no other time ever whatsoever. Ever. What about dry pour concrete? You know, it's a funny thing. Dry pour concrete is kind of a thing. Like you see videos about it, but I poured 20,000 yards of concrete. I've never poured it. I've never done dry concrete. It's kind of a niche, newer thing. Big audio files over here. What's your stance on Pfizer or Moderna? I don't know why I read that comment. What more Nazi question mark? Zeppelin rules. Okay. LOL NPR. Yeah, don't listen. You know, the funny thing is I used to actually listen to Prairie Home Companion when it was on. Brooke got me into that years ago. Garrison Keeler. It was like a variety show, and then he would do this section called News from Lake Wobegon, where he just tell this story about this fictitious hometown he grew up in. And the guy was such a fantastic storyteller. And there was always like an idea behind the story. You know, the story was about X. And I picked that up from the Prairie Home Companion because I think that's the way a lot of people think of things. You know, you don't do something just to do it. You do something for the reason underneath of it. And, you know, the funny thing about talking about NPR, it's like PBS. I don't watch PBS. I don't watch TV, but there was one of my favorite shows ever was on PBS, the Red Green Show. You know, Red Green is, he's a personal hero of mine because Steve Smith is the comic who did Red Green. And he wanted to kind of make it without conforming, right? And so he just kept trying to avoid getting stuck in the rat race, and just he wanted to do his own thing, but he wanted to be successful at it. And when the Red Green Show came out, I couldn't believe it was a hit. It was like all the people in my neighborhood, just a bunch of rednecks cobbling stuff together. And I'm like, this guy made a show out of it and it's a hit. This guy's a genius. So Red Green is, he was on PBS, and another Canadian I'm a big fan of. Stones or the Beatles? Probably the Stones. A guy asked me earlier tonight, favorite beer? Don't really like beer too much. Little, but not much. It just makes me feel stuffed. A guy asked me earlier about moving to Alaska and where to go where there's no property taxes, anywhere outside of the Fairbanks North Star Borough, Delta Junction, Tok, Glen Allen. So if you're still watching, that's the answer to that question. Zeppelin or Floyd? Zeppelin, absolutely. Is everyone testing you on the hot button issues? Zeppelin versus Floyd is the hot button issue. Keep your stick on the ice. Yep, that's absolutely right. Ever visit Dick Prenicke's cabin on Twin Lake? No, we never have. But Dick Prenicke left Twin Lake in 1999, I believe. And Brooke and I went to the Aleutian Islands in 1999. I had no idea who the guy was. Never heard of him at that point. About the time he left is about the time we flew out to the Aleutians. So there's a possibility we passed him in the air when he was leaving. I don't know that that's possible. I mean, it's possible. I don't know that it happened, but about the time he was leaving that part of the world, we were in that part of the world. Bigfoot, yay or nay? No. Do you have a favorite wood stove brand? Somebody asked this earlier. All those little wood stoves in the cabins we've built in the last few years, they're Alpine brand, I believe, and the model is Camp Chef. What's your favorite conspiracy theory? You know, that's funny. That is a funny question. Because back in the early 2000s, you know, I was a cement contractor in Fairbanks, Alaska. We had our log cabin, and we had this little shed that I built next to it. And I'd go out in the shed at night, and I had this like bathroom stall divider that was my desktop. I found it at the dump, and I had a file cabinet under each end. I'd go out there at night, and I'd just do data entry and bid jobs and stuff like that. Had a wood stove in the corner, and Coast to Coast was like the only thing on at that time of night. So I heard all kinds of stuff, man. And even today, I'll go to Fairbanks and I'll kick Coast to Coast on because it comes on at 9 o'clock at night. It's not the middle of the night, and just listen to the crazies out there. Sometimes that show is actually quite fun, Coast to Coast AM. But sometimes I think, man, this show is just straight up evil because you get people on there that are, that are ready to buy anything under the sun, and into the radios believing in some crap they have no perspective on. So the conspiracy theory question, that was pretty fun, actually. Secret to a long marriage. Oh, man. I don't know. It'd be 25 years for Brooke and I on the 12th of this month. Secret to a good marriage. I think a secret to a good marriage is, in some instances, is just make sure the other person has enough space. If Brooke wants to do something, she just goes and does it. And the same with me. So I think if you keep your foot on somebody, that's never any good. Jane McCormick, YouTube. I don't know what you mean, Jane, but that's where we're at. Would you do Alone again? I was contacted last year by Natalie, she was one of the production people for Alone. And she was interested in having me come out as an alternative on Alone Frozen. And I was about to go start building a cabin. And in the fall, like October, November, that's the best time of year for YouTube revenue. So I said, yeah, I don't want to go do Alone Frozen. I'm going to be really busy, but honestly, I would do the show again if I ever had. The show's just getting bigger and bigger. I don't know that they're going to have much to do with some of us old folks that were on it. 7 years ago. Wow. When I start thinking about it, it's pretty amazing. That 7 years went really fast. But the folks from season 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, even 6, I don't know that they're ever going to bring any of these people back. The last few seasons have been really good. What's your secret to start a YouTube channel? Was that what you just went by? One secret about starting a YouTube channel is if you give it a name that doesn't cross-reference to anything else, I think you're way ahead. Like there was a guy who could talk to me on the phone a couple of years ago. His name was Doug Ness, and he was in Alaska. He wanted to start a YouTube channel, and he had a beautiful setting. He knew how to run a camera, and he wanted to do this family like in the bush in Alaska channel. And he called the channel the Wildernesses because his name was Ness. His last name was Ness. So it was this clever turn of a phrase, Wildernesses. The problem is when you Googled it, you could never find the cotton picking thing again. Like he gave me the link once, and once I lost the link, I could never find the channel again because it just kept being this autocorrect thing where you type in Wildernesses and it takes you to Wilderness, or you couldn't find it. There's too much out there. I kind of got lucky with Bushradical because when you type in BUSHR, there's really nothing else out there. So that's one thing I would say for somebody starting a YouTube channel is to pick a name that isn't just going to be flooded in the search. Along the same lines, some guys that were on Alone 4 with us, the Richardsons, they had a YouTube channel. It was a pretty good channel. It was called American Wilderness. When you type it in, unless they had 5 million subscribers, you'd never find it because the channel was called American Wilderness and 500 other things would come up first. So if you're starting a YouTube channel, consider the fact that when somebody types in your name, are they going to find you, or are they going to find a million other things that are in that same space? Another tip too, and this is an actually fun story. The way I came up with the name Bushradical was a random band name generator. Like if you're in a band, right? there's a little widget, little website on the internet where you can type in, they'll ask you like 5 questions, like what's your favorite color? Well, you know, what do you are you mellow or are you angry? Are you, you know, where's your favorite vacation spot? And you type like 5 things in, and they give you this mismatch of words that would be a band name. You'd be like, you know, Black California or something like that, or you know, it's like it just mashes together your answers. And I wanted a channel that was reflective of kind of living on the fringe of society and kind of getting your start in life by roughing it and living, you know, the off-grid lifestyle, because that's kind of how we came up from in that Fairbanks, Alaska area where we built our first cabin. Dry cabins were a big thing. There's a lot of really bad land where you can't put in a well, or you can't put in a conventional foundation. So I always wanted something that was, you know, do something drastic that was on the fringe, that was outdoorsy related to kind of get a start in life. And the thing spit out the word Bushradical, and I was like, yeah, that's not bad. I like it. So I adopted it, and it's been it's done well. Alaska or Michigan, like them both. I don't really know anywhere else I would like to be. I wish America owned Canada, because Canada's got so much nice stuff, but I don't want to move to a foreign country. Pick through lumber at Menards. That's a good question. Menards has fairly good lumber, but some places are worse than others, that's for sure. How many trees per property do you use for firewood? Man, I've cut thousands of trees, and every property we have, you look around, it's like, man, we could, you know, there's still 1,000 dead trees to cut. I don't think you're just going to cut the trees and, you know, you don't plant any more trees and there's not going to be trees. If there's trees are growing all the time, you cut down a tree, 4 grow up in the spot. And if you're a property owner, if you're not constantly keeping an area clean, nature just reclaims it. I used to live in a foreign country, California. I love that. Cabin in the UP. Yes, we have a cabin in the UP, and we have a cabin in Alaska. There's 2 in the UP. There's 3 actually in the UP, all on the same property. For your information, sound and video have deteriorated. Are you guys finding that to be the case? Is my internet connection getting clogged up? Do you stack silver or gold? Interesting. If I did either, I probably wouldn't mention it. But I would say right now, 22 ammo and 9mm ammo are about as cheap as they've been in a while. It's a good investment. Sounding good. Okay, sounds good. Good. Okay, some choppy. Well, if it is choppy, it's probably just the internet connection. This time of night, everybody's on watching Netflix, I suppose. Little laggy. Okay. Any way to stop new lumber from warping? Keep it stacked, keep it level, ratchet strap it all together if you're not going to use it for a while. Do you think the off-grid craze has peaked? Well, honestly, I'm probably not the person to talk to about that. My version of off-grid is like building like a fishing camp. You know, you got a cabin and an outhouse. You haul your water or you catch rainwater. Everybody out there in the off-grid space that has a big solar setup or a big battery bank setup, or they're running a lot of 12-volt stuff, they all know more about it than I do. So I'm not the right person to ask. I'm more like, I build cabins that are rustic. That's why I didn't, when I started, like the theme of the channel was rustic living. And I didn't put off-grid living in my channel description, because so many people know so much more about that. I like to build little cabin. I have a generator so I can fire it up if I want to run a skill saw or something. A hole in the ground with a little outhouse over top of it, man, you're good. A lot of people have a hard time finding a place where they feel like they can get away with that. That's the way things were 100 years ago. I don't protest or throw rocks through federal buildings. my protest is I like to do what I want on my own land. Greetings from Trout Lake. How's it going, Trout Lake? Drive through Trout Lake quite a bit. Video is a little warped. Well, we're just going to do the best we can with our internet connection. New Zealand. How you doing, New Zealand? Where's the best place to get chimney pipe? Well, I'll tell you, Ace Hardware is the most expensive, but they generally have everything. Whatever happened to your vertical aspen log cabin? Well, if you saw earlier this year, I did a woodshed video. That was at that property with the vertical log cabin. It's still a work in progress. There doesn't really seem to be any push to get it done. I got the attic all insulated this year and all closed in, and I got the eaves all wrapped in. But that cabin, I started that in 2017. So without spending time there in the winter, there doesn't really seem to be like a big push to get it done. We just go up there and, stay in the cabin while we're there in the summer. If we were going to be there in the winter, I would definitely get it completely dialed in. What's the fastest you've driven to and from Alaska? My friend John Cassidy and I drove from Fairbanks, Alaska to Michigan, the middle of Michigan, and it took 3.5 days. And I drove all of that minus maybe 100 miles because John could stay awake for days. But as soon as he was driving, he'd just get groggy. Like driving kind of put him to sleep. If somebody else was driving, he'd just stay up and talk. So we made that trip. My brother made it in 4 days by himself, which is just unreal. Ever do any smelt dipping anymore? The legend. Funny thing you mentioned that smelt dipping this year was the best I've seen it in 40 years. My brother and I both limited out. There was bonfires all up and down the Carp River in St. Ignace. Man, it was a big party. Just a lot of fun. A lot of people catching a lot of fish. But it hasn't been that way in a long time. Just won't use on a grizzly with a 22. Just get him mad. Yeah, that's true. Will you be voting for Governor Whitmer again? No, I will not be. And I never did. Love the channel. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. Alaskans on the Fly. That's Johnny Johnson. He has a magnet fishing channel if you want to check out Alaskans on the Fly. Hello, horse. How are you? 22 or 23 years ago, we did the bus garage in Healy, just north of Denali National Park. Do you hunt deer, bear, ducks? I really don't do much hunting, to be honest. I used to bow hunt, but I was really terrible at it because I would just get, I don't know, get buck fever, or deer fever. So I made a lot of mistakes bow hunting, but I like to sit in a tree in the woods. But pike fishing is my drug of choice when I get out in the woods. If I'm out doing something for meat, I like fishing pike. I like fishing anything, but I like fishing pike the most. Smelting Lake Misaki. Interesting. Would you ever consider doing alone on your own? Yeah, I would try it. I like to get to the point in my life where I didn't have a ton of other projects hanging out there, which I'm working on. But ever visit Texas? I was in the Houston airport once on a flight to Alaska. Why they routed me from Michigan to Texas to get to Alaska, I don't really know. But yeah, I saw Houston from the airport. Do any fly fishing? Yeah, I like to fly fish. Tips for getting into fly fishing? I absolutely have tips for getting into fly fishing. Best way to get into fly fishing is cheap because you don't need expensive gear. The cheapest fly rod, the cheapest fly line. Get a rubber spider or a little popper. It'll catch 9 out of every 10 things in the lake. Ever go to Montana? Yes, I've been to Montana lots of times. Beautiful state. Lots of prairie on the east side of Montana. Oh man, big comments are hard to read. Is it best to drive to Alaska across the US or across Canada? Canada from here, because it's shorter and it's prettier. The US from here, if you drove across US 2, across Minnesota and Montana and Idaho and such, it's a more desolate road and it's a couple hundred miles longer. Ever been to South Dakota? Nope. 22 is a great round. My favorite, personally. Ever been to Wisconsin? Yes, we lived in Wisconsin for a while. It's about 8 months, years ago. Do you have an off-grid solar battery setup? See, that's what I mean with off-grid channels. Everybody knows more than I do. When I go up to the cabin, if I'm building anything, I'll take the generator and a couple gallons of gas and tools. If I'm just going to go up there, I'll take a small power station because, you know, we've got a couple of them that were sent to us. You know, like the anchor thing that fell through. They sent me 2 of them. I love them. They're both great. But I'll charge the thing up at home. I'll take it up there and I'll plug my LED lights into it. I got a battery radio. That's good enough. Cook on a Coleman stove. Ever been to New Hampshire? Nope. Ulus. For those of you who weren't with this channel 4 or 5 years ago, I used to make a bunch of Ulus. I must have made 300 of those things. And they're fun to make. And they're great to use. Just a big half moon shape cutting knife, Yupik Eskimo type of a knife. But I just don't do it anymore. Once you make 300 of them, it feels like a job. What kind of mileage does that F-250 get you? About 20 miles an hour if you got it shut off and it's all downhill. But if you're actually got the motor running, about 12, 13. Ever been to Virginia? Years ago with my dad. Years and years and years ago. Do you think Mick will be ready for the cold winter in his cabin? About to find out. Because it's winter. It's winter there today, probably. It's probably not super cold, but it's getting to the point where it could be 20 below zero tomorrow. We actually we lived in Delta Junction. One year we saw a November, and it never got above 20 below zero all in November. So by the time 30 days, and you're just getting into December. That's the problem with interior Alaska. It's beautiful, and the winters actually they're really, really dry, so they're kind of a nice cold. It's not as bad as, you know, like Chicago was brutal, or St. Ignace is one of the coldest towns I've ever been in. You go there and it's 35 degrees, the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour, and you're hypothermic pumping gas. But, you know, when you're inside for 7 months in Alaska, because it's just brutal outside, it kind of takes the fun out of it. Okay. Do any ham radio? No, I don't do anything ham radio. I could probably fix them. I used to do quite a bit of tube audio work because I didn't have any money years and years ago, and I like to tinker with tube guitar amplifiers. Youpers are Packers fans. Yeah, a lot of them are. Northern Great Lakes wind is brutal. Yeah, ask the guys on the Fitzgerald. That's coming up here pretty soon too. It'd be the 5th of November the Fitzgerald sank. And speaking of which, Gordon Lightfoot just passed away. And for those of you who don't know, if you ever heard the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, I've spent a lot of time in that part of the world, not too far from where the Edmund Fitzgerald sank. So that song's always kind of, you know, it's kind of like my shipwreck song for sure. You know, I know that part of the world. And Gordon Lightfoot, you know, he made that shipwreck famous. A lot of ships sink on the Great Lakes, but that, you know, it's memorialized through the song. And my daughter was telling me just a little while ago that the bell from the Edmund Fitzgerald, because 29 people died on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The bell, they scuba divers brought that bell up, and it's in a museum, I think, in Detroit. I want to say, don't quote me on that, but she told me that they rang that bell 30 times. They rang it for just a little while ago. They rang it for the 29 people that died, and then they rang it once for Gordon Lightfoot. That's pretty cool. Come on. Got this cat sitting here bothering me. She gets this way about 3 times a day where she just has to be talked to and petted, and then she just goes and kills songbirds. Do you have an RV? No, I don't. Would you like to build a log cabin on a loan? Would you build a log cabin on a loan again? Well, you want to build some kind of a shelter. There's a lot of theories about what to do and what not to do. Our cabin was very cozy. It was it was a big benefit. Took a lot of calories to make. But on the other hand, you know, you saved a lot of calories from being out of the weather. That's a tough question, really. But a good shelter gives you a lot of peace of mind. It's a big plus. Speaking of shipwrecks, I found a piece of Maplehurst McLaren about 50 yards out. That's very interesting. Great quote from the chainsaw video. You're going to die. I was talking about people working on ladders with chainsaws, and that's true. If you watch the videos on the net about people, you know, trimming trees off a ladder, dude, it's so hard to watch. People are just crippling themselves time and time again. Bairds are awesome, says Girl in the Woods. I've seen her before. I recognize that name. Yes, Jim and Ted Baird, they are awesome folks. They're good people. They're just the funniest 2 guys you ever met. What are your thoughts about retirement? Honestly, you know, I never think about it. I'm always going to be doing something. I think about my dad, right? My dad's been retired for, I don't know, 6 years probably. And he never slows down for a minute. Like, it's hard to get a hold of him because he drives for the Amish. So he's out running the roads all the time. But I suppose that's probably my plan for retirement too. I'm just going to keep doing whatever I'm interested in doing as long as I can, and then I'll just kick the bucket. But like having nothing going on and playing golf, I'm not a good enough golfer for that. Do you plan on doing merch? Nope. No, I don't plan on. I did a run of t-shirts one time, but I find it's a whole lot better just to pick a subject that you're pretty sure has got a lot of interest, that you know something about, and shoot the best video you can on the subject. Because merch and sponsorship deals and brand deals and stuff like that, I don't know. I just don't. I think it's all a distraction. You put out a good video that gets watched every week for years, it's going to do way better for you in the long run than coffee cups and shirts and promoting, you know, the latest solar widget. Lots of fishing when I retire. That's a good plan. Fishing. Man, this is going fast. I'd buy a shirt. I appreciate that. I would buy a lure or camping gear. Now, you want to talk about a couple products I would endorse. I used to have a big tackle box full of everything under the sun. And now if I'm going to go out pike fishing, I take a black and white Daredevil, and I take another one, and I take another one, I take another one, and then I take a red and white. And that's about it. And a couple packs of steel leaders, and that's about it, man. I've had better luck on a few things than I have if I'm changing baits all the time. The other thing, you know, the one company I would deal with from a sponsorship standpoint is Yamaha. They wouldn't give me the time of day because they're massive, but they make everything cool. They make drum sets. They make great acoustic guitars. They make keyboards. They make grand pianos. They make boat motors. They make motorcycles. They make quads. Yamaha literally makes everything cool, but they'll never be a sponsor. That's for sure. They're super, super, super big. But that company is like that's the coolest company in the world. Better than Honda, better than Harley Davidson. They're better than everybody. Because everything they make is good. They make cool stuff. If you can buy an outboard from the same company you're getting a bass amp from, that's pretty cool. Beach or mountains? Both. Love them both. Edmund Fitzgerald Bell is in a museum in Whitefish Point. Thank you for clarifying that. That does make sense now that I hear it. Any countries you'd like to visit? I don't know, man. I like the U.S. and I like Canada. I'd like to go to Ireland at some point. Not because of anything about Ireland, but I've always heard Irish people really just love Americans. You know, some countries not so much, but I've always in Ireland they're just really fun folks. My first jet ski was a Yamaha. See? Yamaha makes jet skis. They make snowmobiles. They make snowmobiles and electric guitars and drum sets and outboards. Seriously, Yamaha's the greatest company ever. Do you pan or dredge for gold? I flail around like an idiot and never find any. I pick spots that I like to sit and but I don't have a gold panning. So I never get enough to say so. How about take your 25-year wife someplace warm with no work? I didn't see who that was. They passed out of the chat before I finished reading the comment. I have a Yamaha Beach custom drum set, one of my favorites. Absolutely. You know what I wanted to mention is shorts. A couple of people have asked me about shorts and getting into short content. And I'm just not going to do that. I don't see anything about shorts that fits me. Rambling fits me, so a podcast would be a better next step. But shorts, when I'm used to getting 10,000 shots for a video and moving the camera all the time, the idea of doing a short content I don't think it's made for me. So if you're one of those people that asked about shorts, that's probably not in the cards for me. Actually, the funny thing, I'm gonna give you guys a really good funny story. I do watch a few shorts. I've been watching shorts 6 months to see, just to kind of flesh out the landscape to see if it's something I wanted to do. And I see a bunch of these like old school wrestling shorts from the 80s, right? And I went to a professional wrestling event when I was 11. It was the first time I ever went. It was the NWA, right? Not the WWF. This is kind of the rough crowd. It was at the Stadium Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is basically built like a giant hay barn, like a big hoop roofed, had a wooden roof. And this is back when you could smoke inside and the whole place was like just full of smoke. And I went with my dad's friend, Ted Barr. Ted Barr actually met Dick Prenicky in Port Ellsworth. Interesting connection. But Ted was a friend of my cousin Danny. He was staying with my dad and I. My dad was busy, so Ted took me to this wrestling thing because Ted was into wrestling too. It was like 85. And Ted and I are sitting up there in this, he's like 19 or 20 and I'm 12 probably. He was like an older brother. And we're sitting up in the bleachers, probably 15, 20 rows up. And the tag team match was the Road Warriors against the Russians, like Ivan Koloff and Nikita Khrushchev. And the Road Warriors come down. I don't know, maybe the Russians came down first. Anyway, the Russians are coming down to the ring. And this place is like thick smoke. It's like you're in a barn. It's pretty old school. The guy right behind Ted and I stands up. He has a pint whiskey bottle. And he throws that thing like a baseball. And he misses this Russian. The guy's obviously not Russian. He's probably from California. He misses this guy's head by like 2 inches. And that whiskey bottle just shatters on the side of the apron by the ring. And that dude lost his sense of humor quick. You know, you see wrestlers all the time pointing and yelling, and this guy was looking right up at us because the guy who threw the ball was behind us, and he's saying to the sun, and he's weighing like, do I want to keep working and just get in the ring and do the thing, or do I want to go up in the bleachers and kill somebody? And Ted and I are just like scooching down on our chairs. We're like, it's that guy, man. We didn't do it. But that's my pro wrestling story, which I was reminded of pro wrestling by looking at shorts, which I probably won't get involved in shorts because it's just not me. Somebody says no sound. Anybody else having? Okay, sound is fine. If you're the one without any sound, just check your connection. What would your pro wrestling finishing? The figure 4 leg lock. I'd be right out of Ric Flair's book. Sound is good. Sound is good. Okay. Refresh. Sound is fine. Okay. Makes me worried because this tech is over my head. Even though a 5-year-old could show me how to do it, I'm a concrete guy who builds with chainsaws. And tech is a little bit above my head most of the time. How have the boots been? Boots have been good. JK actually sent me a set of boots too. Speaking of Knicks, JK wanted me to try out a pair of boots. I said, man, I'm not looking for endorsements or nothing like that. They're like, don't worry, they sent me a pair. And they're a little tight for the size I picked, but I like those boots a lot too. I told them, yeah, they're too small. They said, well, we'll make you another set. So I think they really, they're onto the internet advertising thing, but they do make a really nice set of boots. And I got the ones that have a shorter heel, and they actually fit my feet pretty good. But these ones were a fuzz small. Thoughts on Minnesota? I like Minnesota, like northern Minnesota anyway. Did some time in the Mayo Clinic. That's a great hospital. Dave, want a drummer to go along with your guitar stuff? No, man, I'm not doing the band thing anymore. I did that for a couple years out of high school. I played in a rock band for 2 years. Backwoods, chew spitting, redneck rock and roll band. And it's the land of broken dreams is what it is. You play a bar or a show somewhere for 15 people and you drive 100 miles to do it. No, I don't want to do that. I like playing guitar in my office over here. I'll just do a hack job of it, and then I'll put it on a video, bury it low enough nobody can hear the mistakes. It's a pretty good gig. So no drummers. Denali Highway on motorcycle was excellent. Any more motorcycle rides? Well, I don't really do motorcycle content per se, and some motorcycle content fits into my Cheap Wheels channel. But for this channel, it's kind of hard to find motorcycle content that fits with it. The Denali Highway ride was pretty epic. I'm really glad I did it. I would have loved to have had company on that, but doing that solo was pretty awesome. You don't say much about building permits during your cabin projects. Are Michigan's laws more liberal? No, I have property in the middle of nowhere, and if you were on my property, you probably couldn't find my cabins. So basically, I'm protesting. I'm protesting the overreach of government and their oppression for the small builder. Are you familiar with Kyle over at Kyle's Cabins? No, I don't know anything about him. But in your analytics on YouTube, it shows you the other channels that your people watch. I've seen Kyle's Cabins in that list, but I don't know anything about his channel. Red Green was the best. I still watch the reruns. Yeah, Red Green was the best. Please, concrete video. Man, I'm not making a concrete video. I actually have a video where I'm finishing concrete, but it's just a few frames of it, and it's about a different subject. I hate the government. Please, 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 fishing videos. Brooke has a fishing video coming up where her and I were fishing just the other day. She may have put it out already. I haven't been keeping track. I've been trying to figure out live streaming. But I caught about a 40-inch pike the other day. It was a good day. It was crazy. You guys are going to have to see that, because what happened when that fish was on the line, if you haven't watched that video, if it's not up, which I don't know if it is, I don't think it is, that video of me catching that fish, I hooked the fish and then things just went crazy. Let's put it that way. Had to do with a canoe and a dog, and you'll have to wait and see. How do you feel about the shutdown? Is that the government shutdown? They can shut it all down for all I care. You know, politics in general is something I've always tried to stay away from on this channel. But like just keeping up on what's going on in politics, I'm just kind of ready to just tune out. Nothing ever gets better in the world of politics, and it's just a rat's nest anyway, so I just stay away from it. Oh, believe me, I have my opinions. Don't get me wrong. But unless you're going to get involved, you should probably just put your opinions on a shelf and just go about your life. You'd be happier about it. How about rafting the Yukon again? I would love to raft the Yukon again. Love to do it. It always seems like it's a good thing to do like next year or the next year. But, you know, you get to a certain time in the year and you feel like, well, I've got to decide between this thing I wanted to do and what I've got going on at the moment, you know. Actually, I don't think I'm going to Alaska next summer. If I had my rathers, I wouldn't go to Alaska for June and July because it's hot. It can get smoky. The bugs are bad. I think next year I'll go up in the middle of August to the end of September. It's the best time up there. It's lovely. And maybe do some rafting on the river. Something small. I'm trying to read some of these big questions, and if I don't understand the question before it disappears, I'm trying to read them. Who's a better cook, you or Brooke? Well, probably Brooke. I do a few things pretty well, but Brooke is a good cook. Shelby, got to run. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. He makes tortillas and cheese. Oh, 16 by 16 cabin build. Tips? Double, triple check your building lists and don't buy more than you need to. Canned pie filling makes a fine dessert. Canned pie filling makes a good dinner. Just crack the can open and eat it all. Sauna build. Yeah, I've thought about building a sauna because, you know, it's like that. It's like a good project that I think a lot of people would like, but honestly, I don't know much about them. So it's something that I've thought about, but a lot of times I want to make sure I know something about what I'm filming. So it's a good fit. It's something I can add value to, and other people want to watch it. When it comes to saunas, I don't really know anything about them. I could build a cabin and put a stove in it and get it hot, but I wouldn't know if I'm doing it right. Is that you playing guitar in your intros? Yup, always is. Bunker build. I don't know. That bunker's pretty ratty. I don't know if I want to put a bunch of time into it. Best brand of bacon. You know, the funny thing is, this is crazy, but that the cheap Walmart bacon in like the 3-pound brick is actually really tasty. Where did you learn to say sauna? It's proper Finnish. Well, actually, in the Upper Peninsula, that's where I learned A too, you know. And I always end all of my videos with be radical, eh? Well, the A is not Canadian. The A is Finnish Upper, basically. Brooke and I lived in the town of Republic on the west end of the UP for a winter. And everybody up there, you know, up there in the UP, that's kind of more Wisconsin. Yeah, sure, you betcha, the far end of the UP. everybody ends their sentences in A, and you pick it up and that just sounds right and you can't shake it. So I've been saying A ever since we were in the UP 25 years ago. Off Grid with Jay and Jen have a really nice solar setup. I talked to Jay quite a bit on the phone. We haven't been up there to see their solar setup, but we'll get up there at some point probably. As far as the guy who said you pronounce the sauna correctly, it's from listening to Youpers records. The Youpers, they always got sauna references and everything, and all their old tapes and stuff. They were a Youper comedy band for anybody that doesn't know this part of the country. Famous for Second Week of Deer Camp, Rusty Chevrolet. They had a lot of great tunes. Went to Ishpeming the other day. And man, they talk so Yoop. Absolutely, Chad. Ishpeming is basically ground zero for that hard UP accent, eh? Can you distinguish a Minnesota accent from a Michigan one? Yeah, I think so. Wisconsin's even worse. Charlie Barron's, man. I love watching Charlie Barron's videos. He's basically doing with skit comedy what the Youpers did with skit comedy in audio. But Charlie's video, he's on YouTube. But Charlie Barron's is a Midwest boy that did good. He really did. And he's super funny. So if you're not familiar with Charlie Barron's, you should watch some Charlie Barron's comedy videos because he's a funny dude. Old music recommendations. Oh man, I want to open a rat's nest there. Alabama Greatest Hits 1 and 2. Eagles Greatest Hits 1 and 2. Man, what else? That's stuff I've been listening to for 40 years. I'm probably sick of it, and I just don't even know better. Ooh, thanks for the great videos, Dave. Thank you. I appreciate that. Best of luck with both of y'all. CCR. Yeah, I love CCR. Creedence is a wonderful band. Ronnie James Dio, somebody says. Steely Dan. Ronnie James, I had a friend, Matt Stilson, when we were kids. We're 18 years old. We're both out of school, and we'd get together on any day of the week. We'd take a cast iron pan out in the woods, and we'd always have, venison from the freezer. And we'd take a radio out and sit in the woods and drink beer and cook venison steaks over a fire on a cast iron pan. And he had 2 albums he'd bring. He had Journey's Greatest Hits and Holy Diver by Ronnie James Dio. So whenever I smell venison cooking over a fire, it makes me think of Ronnie James Dio and Journey, of all things. Which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it? Any military background in your family? My Uncle Bruce was in the Navy. He got in the Navy during World War II. Excuse me. Sorry, Vietnam. But I think he's the only guy in our family. I had an Aunt Agnes that was actually, she wrote a book. She was a World War II vet on my mom's side. She was in the nursing corps, and her plane went down in Albania. And she spent months on the run from the Nazis in Albania. So she's actually the war hero of the family. That's on my mom's side. And she wrote a book called Albanian Escape. And if you can find a copy of it, that's my great aunt, Agnes Jensen. What do you think of Jake and Nicole Off Grid? Somebody needs to buy that lady a shirt. The whole clickbait off grid thing, man, it's you can't be in this business and not be aware of it. It's pretty much its own little thing. Jake and Nicole, I'm sure they've made a fortune in money, but you have to be able to sleep at night too. Trying to read. Thanks for calling out clickbait. Well, yeah, that's Jake and Nicole for sure. Foreigner or Journey? Probably Journey. I like Boss of the Swamp. Is that the YouTube channel, or are you talking about Troy Gentry down there that does the alligator hunting show? Is it Troy? Is it Gentry? It's Troy something or other. He seems like a hoot, and he gets reality TV too. How about Surviving Ringworm? I don't know him, but I've talked to him through email once, I believe. He's up in the UP too. How did you and Brooke meet? I was in a band back in 1995 called Luce County Road Commission. And we were playing, our singer was a little bit, had a little bit of hippie in him. The rest of us were pretty redneckish. All of us were rednecks, but he liked to go to this coffee shop called Shaman's Bluff in Big Rapids, Michigan. And they had an open mic night. So our band went in there to play open mic night. And Brooke was working there when she was going to college at Ferris. And that's how we met. I was playing in a band and she was selling coffee. And she was smoking hot, and that's not exactly how it happened, but it was a coffee shop of all places. You were Kyle's Cabin's inspiration. You'd be proud of him and his wife. I didn't know that. I will definitely check into his channel. Who makes the best pasty? The Zodiac in St. Ignace makes fantastic pasties. They're like a party store, convenience store. They got a little kitchen in the end, and they make these little pasty sliders. For those of you who don't know what a pasty is, it's kind of like a stromboli where the crust is on the outside, but on the inside it's like meat and potatoes and gravy. It's like a pot pie, like a handheld pot pie. 3 thumbs up for Sean James. I don't know what the reference is. That's after Kyle's Cabins, I suppose. But Sean James has really done well for himself. He's got a big channel. Whipple Cemetery in Newaygo County. Is that your family cemetery? Yes, it is, actually. My great, maybe another great grandpa, Luther Whipple, came into that part of the state back in the 1860s, I want to say. My grandma used to do all the genealogy of the family, but she's passed a few years ago, and I don't know who's got it or if they would know what to do with it. Thoughts on Rich Men North of Richmond song? That guy's he's an interesting dude. He has a song called 90 something Chevy. That's I like the song better than Richmond North of Richmond, but I kind of think of that guy, not so much for his song, but kind of the whirlwind he's going through right now, to go from being absolutely nobody to being omnipresent pretty much. That guy's, what is his name? I should know it, but I don't know it. Oliver Anthony. Yeah, he's, could you imagine that? Do you imagine going from being an obscure, like, machine salesman to being, the biggest thing? I mean, he's like basically like the Tiger King. Nobody knew what the Tiger King was, and 6 weeks later, everybody in the country was completely up to speed on this crazy thing that was on television. But Oliver Anthony, man, what a ride that guy's going through, right? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Spend a lot of time in the woods, never seen or heard or had any encounters with anything I thought was Bigfoot. I've seen a lot of bears, and bears could be easily mistaken for Bigfoot. And I've heard a lot of crazy stuff in the woods. And when you realize what some of it is, I've heard coyotes that sound just like owls at times. And I would have thought they were owls if they hadn't come in and circled me and, went nuts when they were, coyotes will do the whoo, whoo kind of thing. And then when coyotes are going full blast, it's just chaos. I've had a couple times when I was a kid where coyotes came into a campfire I was at and just raised it, man. But no Bigfoot or Big Feet or Sasquatch or Sasquatches, Sasquai. No, I don't believe in any of that stuff. Kurt Iceberg says, "Hey, buddy, still going, or is this a recap?" No, I kind of got done saying everything I was going to say, and after that, I've just been going through the comments. UFOs? Nope, no UFOs. You'd think a guy that used to listen to Coast when he was doing construction bids would believe in UFOs, but I don't. Not a bit. Would you go back on alone? Already answered that. You'll have to watch the video in the playback. Man, the big comments. I appreciate the big comments, but a lot of times it's hard to read them unless I back up. Would you would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Oh, that's funny. Preferred pickup truck, Ford or GM? Ford, absolutely. Not that there's anything wrong with Chevys, but I just don't know them. You know, you start with something and you just kind of stick with it because you understand how the systems work. The favorite Alone season, the season Roland won was phenomenal, and Callie Russell. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, she won that season too. They took her out for frostbite. She's just hardcore. That was a great season, and season one was amazing because none of those people had any idea, as nobody did. Nobody knew what that would look like until that season came out. So those guys were like astronauts, you know, because nobody goes and spends any time in the woods by themselves and tries to live off the land. People just don't do that. People like hanging out and barbecuing and surfing the internet and going shopping, and the idea of just being by yourself. Season one of Alone was kind of what's the best way to say it? It was more of a social experiment than it was a reality show. It was something else. Would you buy land in Canada? No, I wouldn't buy land in Canada. I love Canada. I love being up there, but I think it just complicate life, you know. Alaska, you know, you can buy land. You're an American. You can go there. In Canada, just having something in a foreign country would be kind of odd. A lot of nice country up there, though. How many times have you seen Ted Nugent? I've never seen Ted Nugent. You'd think I'd bump into him sooner or later, but I never have. Old Uncle Ted. You know, here in Michigan growing up, right now, if you were here right now and kicked on classic rock, you're going to hear the song Fred Bear like 5 times a day. It's like the bow hunting anthem. You know, it's like Christmas songs around Christmas time. The only bow hunting archery song I know of is Fred Bear by Ted Nugent, and it's fantastic. Would you ever Airbnb your cabins? No, I don't want to do anything like that. Talk to my wife. She's likes the Airbnb idea, but not for anything I've built. Trying to read. Bear with me here, because unless I stop the feed, I am missing stuff. Ever been attacked or bitten by an animal? Yeah, in the Aleutian Islands. We took our dog out to the Aleutian Islands, and the folks that owned the place we were going to caretake for 8 months, they had an Australian Shepherd, and the 2 dogs got into it, and I grabbed one of the dogs. This is in the ocean. We're like knee deep in the Bering Sea. I grabbed one dog and yanked it, and the other dog grabbed my hand. Dingo, the Australian Shepherd, he grabbed my hand and he bit through my thumbnail and through the web of my hand a couple times. And I grabbed his jaw and I tried to pry it away, and he got both my hands at once. Like, finally, by the time I got loose, I just said, I've had enough of that. But my thumbnail actually still has like a little black spot in it where it's, I don't know, like it's never been perfect since then. And that's from a dog biting through the thumbnail. I saw Ted Nugent in Iowa in January. Brooke, is Dave afraid of spiders? No, Dave is not afraid of spiders. I used to not really like spiders at all, but now I kind of got a soft spot for them. How did you end up getting sick? I had a scar tissue condition on my intestine where it's just like a scar tissue buildup. So it makes the intestines not flexible. It's basically like a really low grade incurable bowel obstruction. It was a surgery that fixed that. But I got down to 139. When I went in the Mayo Clinic, I was 139, and I'm 6'2", and I'm 245 right now. Is Zach Wilson a good QB? Okay, you're talking football, I think. I think that's the QB reference. And I don't know anything about football, not a thing about it. The only sport I follow at all is boxing. I like boxing. I boxed a little bit when I was in like 15 years old. Um, it's the only sport that I spend any time whatsoever following. So I hate sports, says Clint B. Curling. It's funny. Fairbanks actually has a curling club. I know several people that I've worked with over the years that have had something to do with curling, and I still don't understand it. Favorite boxer today? This seems since I brought it up. Inoue Inoue is fantastic. He's like 125 pounds from Japan, and he's fantastic. Let's do a smelt dipping video. You know, I may do a smelt dipping video next year because smelt dipping is such a odd little niche. And when it's really going good, when the fish are running and you're out on a riverbank and it's dark and there's fires all along the riverbank, you just hear everybody having conversations, people cooking food and listening to the radio, and it's 3:00 in the morning. It's pretty magical. I grew up smelt dipping. I didn't miss a year between 79 and I don't know, 98 when I went to Alaska was the last year I went dipping. And then I've been smelt dipping since I've been back here, but I don't catch anything. We just go up. But last year was really good. My brother and I both limited out. Fishing videos. I'm all in on that, says B2B. I like the idea, but I don't know if there's much audience for it. And it's so much work to make a really good video that you're happy with. I don't know if it's worth doing. Okay, where are we at here? Sugar Ray Leonard has earned all he needs. Yes, Sugar Ray Leonard's great. He's great. He was a great boxer. +1 for the meet and greet. Yeah, somebody mentioned earlier if Brooke and I would ever do a meet and greet. Nah, I'm just not. I don't think I'm into that. She's constantly thinking about doing a class for one thing or another because she just likes to. She likes the idea of facilitating something, but you know it's when you only can meet up with 5 or 6 people and it eats up your weekend, and I don't know if it's worth doing. And honestly, it's kind of weird too, you know. Why would anybody want to come meet Brooke or I? It's, you know, people know you through YouTube if you're a YouTuber, but you know, I'm a concrete guy. I like to wrench on my motorcycles. I like to play and buy guitars. I like to go to flea markets. It's odd for anybody to want to meet and greet you. It's just weird. Any more knives coming? No. There's the same thing with the Ulus. I made enough knives that really ended up feeling like a job. I enjoyed making knives for the time I did it, but by the time I'd made 30, I kind of had it out of my system. I still use all the equipment I bought for it, my belt grinder and stuff. I'd never want to be without a belt grinder or a portaband on a stand. You would love the swap meet in Mayo. Mayo's a cool town. Good morning from Sweden. How you doing, Sweden? Somebody says DR650 and greatest bike. That's a Suzuki DR650. They are awesome bikes. I'd love to have one. Guitars are addictive, says Jeb. Darn right, brother. I think I've probably got 10 at the moment. A bunch of cheap electrics and some fairly expensive acoustics. Okay, there's somebody from South Dakota. What are your thoughts on Trapper gourds? This is an obscure thing. Trapper gourds is like if you're in Michigan, there's Jay's Sporting Goods, and it has all the camping and fishing and whatever gear. In northern Alberta, there's a place called Trapper Gourds, and I actually have a Trapper Gourds hat, and it's like survival and bushcraft and camping store, and it's a fantastic store, but it's such a obscure place. Who's in northern Alberta? If you guys are, if any fans out there, Jordan Peterson, he's, you know, big into social media. He's a psychiatrist, I believe, psychologist. He's from northern Alberta. If you know anything about Trapper Gourds, that's like the country Jordan Peterson came from. What video editing program do you use? I mentioned this earlier. I just use iMovie. It comes with Mac computers, and it's literally like the Tonka truck version of editing. It's super simple, very intuitive. But you don't need much of anything to edit YouTube videos. You just need something to cut things out and change color if you need it. Do you own any assault rifles? Nope. If I did, I wouldn't say so. Ever try those buried tubes for geothermal cooling and heating? Man, my brother wasted a fortune on geothermal, and I don't think he was ever happy with it. I know people do that, use a geothermal heating system, but I honestly don't understand it. And I understand taking a block of firewood, putting it in a wood stove, lighting it on fire to make your house warm. I get that. Thoughts on Harley Davidson Pan American adventure bike? I've heard they're really great. I don't know that I like the new Harley stuff. And if I can buy a Sportster for a couple $1,000, I could get 10 Sportsters and just ride Sportsters for the rest of my life. And I don't know about that Pan Am. I mean, I've heard it's a great bike, but I really don't know much about it. And the new Harleys don't really do much for me. I think if you could buy an Africa Twin or a Tenere, why would you buy a Pan America? For the adventure bike people. Dude, you're still on. Good for you. Well, this is my first live stream, so I'm getting it all out of the way. So if I never do another one, I want to make sure I've got all my live streaming comments answered, my thoughts out there. More content with Black Spruce. Yeah, Ryan and I were going to go fish a special lake in the Upper Peninsula for Northerns, and I caught a big fish out of there the other day, so that may happen at some point soon. Why did you remove the video about your do-it-yourself solar electric project? Very good question. Because it got demonetized. Maybe it was technically incorrect. Maybe it was dangerous. I don't know. But I do know that video was demonetized by YouTube. So I thought about it, and you know, and it was actually doing quite well for the channel from a money standpoint. It was a popular video, lots of views, and then it was starting to make like 10 cents a day. I said, screw it, I'm just taking it off. If I can't, if I'm gonna get hosed, I'm taking it off YouTube, man. I'm not gonna let them just use it and pay me 2 cents for an ad. Last time you shaved the beard, man, been forever. You don't want to see me without a beard. I just look stupid. Frozen video. Anybody else having frozen video issues? Ever been to Huron, South Dakota? No, I never have. Videos on trail cutting or trail mapping. I have cut a little bit of trail in the last couple of years, but I don't know what I'd do for a video on it. Video's okay. Video's fine. Everything's good. Video is good. Baby face with no beard. Yeah, that's it. That's the problem. I mean, if I shaved my beard, I mean, and took my glasses off, which I film a lot with my glasses off because of the glare. You know, you see the glare, and it sucks on video. So a lot of times I have to have my glasses to read. But if I took my glasses off and shaved my beard, I don't look anywhere near as old as I am, I've been told, which is almost 48. I'm almost 48. So the beard's staying. Favorite brand of generator, Yamaha or Honda? Can't go wrong with either one of them. I'd pick Yamaha because they make guitars and drum sets and outboards. Any experience with bush planes? Oh, yeah. I've had a lot of experience with bush planes. Me and Johnny Johnson, who's in this chat as Alaskans on the Fly, me and him and another guy were finishing concrete in Eagle, Alaska. Right after Eagle got dozed off the map by an ice jam in the Yukon. Yukon was in breakup. There was a big jam in the river. The water floated the ice up over the bank, and it bulldozed the town of Eagle. We went up there to pour concrete. And when we were flying out of Eagle, we were with this guy. His name was Ben. I can't think of his last name. But Ben was just terrified of planes. He'd never been on a little plane, and he was terrified of flying. And it was really windy, and we went down the runway. And when we took off, as soon as the tires got off the ground, that plane kicked 90 degrees into the wind. And the pilot just gunned it. We went straight up. We were over the river. And all of us were like, whoa, that was the nastiest takeoff. And I look over at Ben, and Ben just looks like he's just absolutely panicked. And I couldn't help it, man. I looked over at him. I said, this is a terrible, terrible, dirty thing to say to a guy in this situation. I looked over at him. I said, and it's a legitimate question. I said, are you saved, Ben? He's just flush, man. Just the blood just ran out of his face. And the plane's just bucking and it's just hammering. And we're pulling up over this mountain on the other side of the river. And I've never had a problem in planes because I figure once you're off the ground, it's out of your hands. But Ben, this guy was in such bad shape, man. He was in such bad shape. I thought he was going to wet himself. And about 15 minutes later, he was finally starting to calm down and the plane was doing good. It was an old Bush pilot. The company was called Ken Air. They are on the east ramp at the Fairbanks Airport. About 15 minutes later, Ben was calmed down. He was just finally starting to get in the groove. The plane was smoothing out. Everything was fine. And Ben was also afraid of Sawyer beetles. And these big black beetles, they got these big, sinister-looking black antennas. And they're all over in the north. And about the time he settled down, the pilot grabs a Sawyer beetle off the dash and flicks it right back in Ben's lap. And it was right back into panic mode. He screamed for a minute anyway, trying to find the Sawyer beetle and get rid of it. And, it was the best ride ever. And the pilot's like, yeah, that takeoff was nothing. That's not a big deal. No problem, guys. I said, I've seen them way worse than that. We get back to the east ramp at Fairbanks and we get on the ground. And the pilot looks at Johnny and I and he says, that was a hell of a takeoff. He says, that was one for the books. I said, yeah, I figured that wasn't just routine. He was like, oh yeah. He says, that was nasty, man. So he kept his cool, kept his head, let us all know that it was just routine. When we got on the ground, he was like, yeah, that was wicked. What is the worst place you've been to and what was outside your comfort zone? Huh, man, that's crazy. That's an interesting thought. We lost a cat in Wolf Point, Montana one night. So we're actually running through the town on a Friday night and there's parties going on everywhere, trying to find a cat in people's yards. That was way out of my comfort zone because it looked like a rough town and we're just like marauding through the neighborhood, chasing a escaped cat. First thing that comes to mind, I don't know what else to tell you. There's a lot of crazy stories there. Trout or walleye? I don't really do a whole lot of trout or walleye fishing, to be honest. Probably trout. When was the last time you were in Sitka? Long time, 20 years ago, probably. Any new cabin buildings coming in the future? Probably not. Not for a while. I have a couple small projects I might build, small cabin, but not like a real functioning cabin. I have a few ideas, but I have 2 cabins I have to finish up. Have you been to Waterton, Banff, and Jasper? Yes, I have. That part of Canada is fantastic. What else? He wants to do everything himself, which is admirable. But to be honest, he's made some mistakes he could have avoided with just a quick question. But that's, it's 18-year-olds. And I do appreciate the fact he wants to do it himself. That's admirable. What is your favorite holiday? Thanksgiving, without a question. Used to be 4th of July. When I was growing up, I used to always go to the UP on the 4th of July and spend it in the woods. And I had a couple friends that did stuff like that. Shane Inman and Matt Stilson and Donnie Bird. And we'd go fish and goof off in the woods. But nowadays it's Thanksgiving, a big meal. And it's that wonderful time of year. And it's just lovely. How's your son doing in Alaska? What's his channel name? His channel name is Betting on Alaska. And right now he's in panic mode, I'm sure, cutting firewood. My pillow is calling good night, Rick Kale. Hey, thanks, Rick. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you being here. It is getting kind of late. I should wrap this up here in just a second or two. Paint your car for $20 is hilarious, and I'm going to do it. Do it. We painted a couple vehicles with a roller and some Rust-Oleum. Works great. All right. Is there any other source where I can learn how to build your do-it-yourself solar project? Don't follow my do-it-yourself solar project. Like I said, everybody knows more about that subject than I do. That's not my background. I love Canada. I'm part French myself. Driving through Canada, you hear a lot of French on the radio, but honestly, I don't know much. I don't know any French. I don't know much about the French part of Canada. I like Ontario, and probably my favorite province. The mountains are beautiful, but Saskatchewan, I've met some wonderful folks in Saskatchewan, and they're like the redheaded stepchild of Canada. So I kind of got a soft spot for Saskatchewan. Get more dogs. We got 2. That's enough. Explode your channel with a charity drive. What does that even mean? What's a charity? I guess I don't understand. Calvin or Armenian? Free will, absolutely. Not Calvinistic. But I don't know about Armenian. I think there's it's a biblical question, in case anybody's missing that one. Are you part Native American? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Danish, a lot of Danish. My mother was a Robinson, and her mother was a Jensen. So it's Jensens and Robinsons. And actually, my grandpa Jensen, great grandpa Jensen, I suppose, on my mother's side, was up by Duluth, Minnesota, and actually escaped there was a big fire up there back in the 30s, I want to say, 30s or 40s. Actually escaped the forest fire and came and settled down here in the middle of Michigan. So lots of Danish in my background, and I could have been, if they would have stayed, maybe I could have grown up in Duluth, but they got burned out by the forest fire. Watch trap lines and inlines from northern Saskatchewan. I don't know about that channel. Enjoy your builds. Keep them coming. Well, I will build as much as I can tolerate to build. I built several houses and then a lot of cabins and then poured a lot of concrete. And, you get to the point where it's like, yeah, I don't know that I need anything else. Well, everybody, I would love to stay here and chat, but it's getting a little bit late on this end. I hope you guys have all enjoyed the live stream. Maybe it's given me a little bit of clarity on what I would like to do in the future. If you watch this video later, throw in the comments what you're interested in, whether it's more live streaming, whether it's podcast, because I don't know much about podcasting. Like, I guess I'd mentioned it earlier. I don't have the internet on my phone, so I don't listen to podcasts in the car. My brother and my wife are big into podcasting, so I think it'd be a good fit with the right subject, but I don't know how many of you are interested in that. And YouTube is really where I'm at. The video work, anything beyond that is something I would add to what I'm doing. It wouldn't be something other than what I'm doing. So I might start another channel for kind of a blue collar YouTube tutorial channel. Might do a little bit of podcasting, and I might do quite a bit more live streaming if that's something you guys are interested in. And we'll definitely, if we do more live streaming, it will definitely be topic oriented live streaming. So we'll cover a subject so most of the comments are similar and people can get something out of it. And then like the last 40 minutes, you know, once everything's out of the way, I'll just probably read comments and until I'm ready to hit the sack, which is pretty much now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate everybody in the comments. I've had a great time for my first live stream. I'd have to say it's something I maybe should have done earlier because I I can't talk. The funny thing is when you're so used to doing voiceover with videos, you got like 40 tries to get something right. And if you don't like it, you just delete it and you do it again. So when you're actually speaking to human beings in real time, I find myself stumbling on my words quite a bit. But thank you guys for being here. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all of the questions. I hope if I didn't get to your question, which is 90% of everybody, I hope your question was like somebody else's question and you might have got an answer. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. Appreciate you guys all coming over. Guys, have a good one.